Welcome back to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We have certified expert speaker Faith Clarke. Today, we're talking about how she grew her business with public speaking, and we're reworking some messaging live. Welcome, Faith.
Hey, Majeed, it's cool to be here. How's it going?
Good. So you're running and growing your coaching and consulting business, helping teams and companies. Can you tell me a little bit about the business?
Sure. So I am working with teams and team leaders that feel passionate about their social impact. And when I think about social impact, and when my clients talk about social impact, it's not just about making the money, although that's massively important. It's about doing it in a way that feels ethical, that feels honoring of humans and the earth and everything, right? So it's about being organized on the inside and reflecting that on the outside in the world. And part of the struggle that we face is that the old systems of doing business really didn't pay attention to stuff like that. They really paid attention to just like, let's make the most money, let's do it in the cheapest way, and so on. And so transitioning into a way that really honors what we value now and really honors all the humans on the team can sometimes be a struggle. We have policy, but we don't have it on the ground. So I help people bridge that gap between their intention and how it shows up in people's feet.
Okay, Faith. So would you suffice it to say that you're helping companies bridge from the old world of a profit-focused model to the new world of a values-focused model? Is that it?
Sort of. It's to the new world because a profit-focused model was values-focused, but we valued something different. So it's moving from valuing profit at any cost to moving to valuing everything, including the profit, valuing the resources are primarily human, valuing our impact on the planet, valuing the way all of this shows up in our families, knowing that you can't, if you kill one thing while valuing another thing, you really still lose.
Okay.
So it's
Cool.
that switch.
So we're going to work out some messaging right now.
Sure.
We're going to workshop this. So in the next 10 minutes, you're going to leave this conversation with some proprietary intellectual property.
Ooh.
So this is like the way you say things because you're the expert, and you're going to give some language to this phenomenon. You are a leader in the space because you're an expert. You're sort of a little bit ahead of the curve and explaining to people what's happening in the world and what's going on in the world. And sort of the battle cry call to action is, and if you want to be part of that world that I see, then sign up for a call with me.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Cool.
And I would love for you to make your call to action today on this podcast interview for companies that happen to be listening to this and say, geez, I want to have a conversation with her. So let's do that. I'll mention now for my listeners that you have grown your business by getting paid to speak, by getting invited to speak, and from getting clients to speak, which we'll have some time to talk and unpack about that later. So let's start with your workshopping. And so what you want is, how do we find the right message? How do we find the right language? It really depends on who's the listener. Mm-hmm. And the way we build our signature speeches in our certified expert speaker program is we start by saying, who's the listener? So in your case, Faith, the listener, or the ideal, the desired listener, is the person who's going to book a call with you and hire you, who works for or owns a company that cares enough about this stuff that they're going to dedicate time, energy, and money to hiring you.
Right.
So let's start there. Tell me about the company that hires you, or even the person who hires you to do this kind of work.
So typically it's a company that's doing transformational work, meaning work that's offering programs or other community experiences for people in the world. You know, it could be a school, it could be an after-school program, it could be some kind of coaching business, but people who have something that's akin to classes, where they're taking people through.
Mm-hmm. Let's pick one just for the purpose of this exercise. Pick one ideal client, one ideal company.
Social impact learning organization. So you want me to focus on the type of learning that they're doing?
No, I'm just trying to get an idea of this organization. So you can make one up or pick a real one. Let's just choose a specific one. So can you tell me a specific one?
All right. So ABC company run by Susan, who is a woman in her 40s, very passionate about helping other women be, I said, what is she teaching them? Let's see, what is she teaching them? Helping them work through trauma that's impacting the way they show up professionally.
Okay,
So she runs.
so Susan has a coaching company that works with professional women who've experienced trauma, and Susan helps them solve, heal that trauma so that they can show up better professionally at work.
And she does it through group classes, usually in person. She may do it in organization. Yeah.
Susan's going to hire you. Okay.
Yeah.
And does Susan have employees?
Yes. Susan has a team of people helping her put this program out into multiple spaces.
How many people does Susan have?
8.
Okay. And you're going to be working with Susan's 8 people and Susan.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine Susan's listening right now. And by the way, if you're watching this or listening to this and you know a Susan, tag a Susan. Because Susan runs a coaching company with 8 clients. And what happens right before someone hires you is they experience a pain that they say, all right, that's it. Enough is enough. We're solving this dang problem. They start looking for you. What is the problem that Susan is experiencing that makes her say, okay, that's it. We need to hire someone to help with this?
Yeah, so Susan's business is expanding and she's realizing that it's not as she thought it was going to be easier getting this expanding work done. She thought it would be easier with her team. But what she's finding is that she's focused on both the external facing work. She's in the programs, making sure that the things happen the way they should, and she's helping everybody. So it's almost like she's running ragged between individual people, constantly trying to help them get things done. And as she's doing that, she can't find an effective way to do it that's fitting almost the way she's teaching. She's just realizing the mismatch between this is the way I teach trauma healing and stuff like that, and yet she herself is leading her team in a way that doesn't feel good to her. So it's not effective. She's tired and she doesn't have a way to figure it out.
So in Susan's words, she might be lying asleep at night and a nightmare wakes her up and she says, help, my business is expanding and it's harder than I thought. I'm teaching one thing in my classes, but I feel completely different trying to run my team and it's running me ragged and I feel inauthentic. Help me.
She'd be saying something like that. And she has like new classes coming out. So it's like, I want this expansion and yet I'm scared of it because what's going to happen? This is going to get worse.
I'm afraid to expand, Susan says, because if I do, these problems that are running me ragged might get worse. I don't know what to do. Yep. She might say, how do I lead my team from the level of expansion we've gotten to the level of expansion I desire?
Right.
Right. She might call it, how do I become my next level leader self? She might call it, how do I get my team to feel more aligned to the way I want my company to run? Right?
Yes. To make it feel more aligned, she really needs the team to feel more independent of her and yet also interdependent on each other. There's a way that the individual team members are really dependent on her. And the next level is, how does she get the team to be dependent on each other and almost automatic?
There's a really good piece of language. It's like, how do I get my team to be less dependent on me and more dependent on each other? Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's a little, like a quick tip kind of training, little 5-minute sort of piece that you can put together in terms of your own content where you say how to get your team to become less dependent on you and more dependent on each other. Cool. Like smart, high-performing, growing companies do. Right? Okay. So it's important that we find the right language in Susan's words at Susan's level of understanding of the problem. Your level of understanding may be that, well, you need systems and you need processes and you need to hire the right people and you need to have the right communication rhythms and all that. Their level of understanding is nobody can seem to make a decision without asking my permission first. And it's driving me crazy. I can never take a day off because nobody can make a decision without me. That might be their language based on the level of understanding of the problem. Make sense?
And when they make a decision, then it's wrong. As it's not wrong, it's okay, but it doesn't show the values that she's been teaching in her classes and stuff. So there's a mismatch. A copy a little bit off. The improvisation when a problem shows up, a little bit off of the way that she's been teaching things need to happen.
I can't trust my team to make the right decisions when I'm gone,
Yep. Yeah, that's
says
good.
Susan, right?
Yeah.
So the solution to that is the magic right decision every time method, or the decision alignment tool, right? Or the right decision test.
Mm.
What is the right decision test? You know, I sometimes tell my staff, if I was standing right behind you and you turned around in your chair and says, what do you think I should do? Whatever you think I would have said, you make that decision. That's the right decision test. Now, I don't know that. I don't know it as well as you do. But what we're looking for here is like unique language to describe what they would call the magic bullet or the magic solution, right? Man, if I just had like a little genie that popped out of a bottle every time someone needed to answer to a question, it would always tell them what they would say. That would be like my magic, make sure you make the right decision tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can look for language like that, Faith, like microscopic solutions to very specific problems that she has.
Right.
And you can also look for language that shows that you are the macro expert in this space. And when we started this conversation, it was about old world values, profit, new world values, or whatever. That's where we look to people like you as someone who's seen how the world has changed and can foresee how the world is changing. So then in my mind, I'm imagining you as the expert with the solutions to the problems that I can't seem to fix myself, which is why your phone rings, right? So we've talked about, what was her name again? The owner?
Susan. Yeah.
We've talked about sort of what keeps Susan up at night, what Susan's language is. So now, how does Susan see you? Faith is my HR consultant. Faith is my team building coach. What does she call
Yes.
you?
Well, it's almost team strategist,
Okay.
teamwork strategist. Yeah.
We've hired a teamwork strategist.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we chose Faith is because she's developed her own method that helps companies become aligned to their values that go from dependent on the leader to interdependent on the team, go from making decisions based on their own values to making decisions based on the company's and the team's values, to go from not knowing what to do in challenging situations to having a culture and a playbook and a culture of empowerment that allows the business to run like clockwork without the leader even being present when the leader needs to be taking a week off.
Yeah, the values get into the feet. So it's this that allows, whether it's the playbook or it's not even the company's values, although it is the company's values, but it now becomes everybody's values. It's like, it's not having Susan's values that they now have to remember what Susan's values are and implement Susan's values.
Yeah.
There's a owning of the whole set of values. Everybody's like, oh, this is what we are doing. It's defining this new we.
So Faith, I had an experience where I was working with a business owner who had a team of 12 people. She hadn't taken a vacation in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was always her dream to go to Switzerland. And she would put Switzerland on her vision board, but she never made plans because deep down, she didn't trust that her business would still be there when she got back. And I'm talking 2 weeks.
Yep.
So that's when I created what I call the vacation test.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I created what I call, those are like, I'm declaring my proprietary technology here. The vacation test, not just any vacation test, it's the vacation test. And the vacation test is, what would you do before leaving for a 2-week vacation where you're completely unreachable? And when you get back 2 weeks later, what do you think will have broken? And that's how we build the systems and the processes to get the teams to working together so that you can actually take that vacation. By the way, Kathy sent me the most beautiful pictures of the Swiss Alps, holding her fresh Swiss cheese that she had a little wine and cheese and a fresh French baguette at the top of the Swiss mountain. And she sent me the picture and said, I'm on vacation and it feels surreal. This has been a dream come true. And I know my team is working smoothly because of the systems and processes we put together before I left. Thanks. So that's kind of the happy dream come true for Susan. Now she can take vacations. Now she can sleep at night. Now she can be home and present with her kids without worrying about putting out fires at work, all because they implemented the systems. So this is the proprietary language I would encourage you to create and incorporate, Faith. That's just that simple idea, the vacation test, for example, right? Is like something that shows you've done this before, and it also speaks to the fear and the result that they want. Make sense?
Yeah, I love the vacation test is cool, but I think that some of the business owners that I work with, it's that right decision model. Before even knowing that they can, or right decision tool or whatever, no, before even knowing that they can book a vacation, they need to know that they can lean back and watch a fumble happen and it be righted and corrected without them having to jump in the middle of the fray. And so it's like having people know what to do when something gets thrown at them, and knowing that the decision they make will really be fitting the values that everybody has. Yeah.
So decision is a word, comes from the Latin, same as incision and scissors. It means to cut. And then there's choice, which is a selection from options, a choice. You can choose to run with decision or choice. I like this model, or this word, right decision model, the right decision model, or the right choice model. Because if you look at Susan's language, I just want my people to make the right decision. I just want my people to make the right choice. So when you call it the right choice model or the right decision model, you can teach it. How do we know the decision was the right decision? Well, because A, B, C, D, because step 1, step 2, step 3. How do we know that we make the right decision every time? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that's something that you teach. And then you'd say, if you'd like to see how this process would work with your own team, book a call with me. Let's get your team making the right decision so that you don't have to be there making every single decision for them. So
that's cool.
Take a step back, and you said you kind of have some new language you're trying to workshop here. What, after we've kind of workshopped this now, Faith, what do you feel the language is, and what still feels unclear for you?
The clarity that I got just now was on a granular piece of the problem on the ground versus I'm talking about values-driven teams. But that's, as you said, it's language that's yes, it's in the business owner's words, but it's not the problem on the ground, right? So what feels really clear is that an aspect of what's amiss when your team isn't values-driven is decision making. And that keeps people up at night, because in COVID and all the things that have been going on in the world now, things are changing constantly. And we depend on our teams to be able to respond to all the stuff that's going on pretty quickly. But if everything's dependent on you, then you're up all the time. Like you can't even breathe because somebody is knocking with the new thing that's come. And so having a way that people can make decisions even when it's not the thing that you agreed on in the Monday meeting. You met, you agreed, this is what we're doing. Having people have that way, it feels good.
So you should create a definition of what is a values-driven team. We know one element of a values-driven team is they make the right decision most of the time.
Yeah.
Because they have the right decision model, they have the right decision method, right? And I would also create, in our course, in our expert speaker method, we talk about Pain Island and Pleasure Island. And your ideal client right now is stuck on Pain Island, struggling, and they want to get to Pleasure Island. Well, we know what in your world, Pleasure Island for your client is, I have a values-driven team that I trust, I can sleep at night, and I can take vacations. And I know they're going to make the right decision most of the time.
Right.
So we know what that's called. That's called a values-driven team. Without calling it such an offensive name that employees would want to quit, like a toxic, crappy team, what is the name of a team before they became a values-driven team, or what is the opposite? What are those called?
Not a team. Sorry. Well,
Well, that's
I
what I
don't
was
know.
thinking is like, it's like, you know, a group of disconnected
It's a scattered group of people with little mini clusters of talking about things, and all of it really focused on the leader when stuff needs to happen. So it's like it's a
Okay.
gaggle.
I can't swear on this because this is going to be the podcast, and if I swear, it has to put a little explicitive next to my
You
episode.
on the YouTube, yeah, yeah.
But you know, if swearing is part of your brand, you could call it a shit show, or you could
Mm,
call it a cluster fuck.
mm,
Okay, I'm not sure if that's going to get me the e or not. But you know, like there are, to use a more sophisticated word, a quagmire.
hmm
Although
It's
I
it's
wouldn't.
like it's like herding cats, but I don't know if I can say herding cats because lots of people say it. But it's that effect. Like you're, it's
So go from herding cats to leading a values driven team.
right.
Go from chickens with their heads cut off to a values driven team. Now, again, whatever you label this Pain Island team as, it needs to be at least respectful enough that the employees wouldn't be offended,
Don't do, right,
right?
right.
Because anyone who hires you is raising their hand and saying, I have that problem. So you don't want your client to say, I have a, you know, crap of a team or whatever, but there is some label that we need to give this type of team that shows, you know, it could even be like, this is a level 1 team and we want to transition it to a level 2 team. So a level 1 team is this, and this, and a level 2 team is that, and that, right?
I can
So
do that because in that analogy, they do get the job done. It's just it may not exactly be the job that the leader has in their mind, even though the leader may not always say, hey, that wasn't the job. But number two, the people are exhausted.
mm,
They're not, there's like all kinds of little fractious
yeah,
disharmony type of thing. So I can list off like a level 1 team, they get the job done. It's okay. It's an average job. It does the work, they make the money. But they still have these kinds of features, the hyper dependence on the leader,
yes.
you
You can
know.
call it from a dependent team
Mm-hmm.
to an interdependent team. An
Mm-hmm.
interdependent team is a values driven team. Whatever label you're going to call that team as, like the top level label, I think it's values driven team.
Mm-hmm. Or
Um,
peak performing values driven team, because I don't want it to just be, yeah, hey, we're values driven. I know values driven means performance, but I do want it to be clear that when we're values driven, we are not letting go of the bottom line, both in terms of productivity and in terms of money. It's
you
just that
know,
we're holding on to something, some other things as well.
one thing you can call this team that really doesn't disrespect the team at all is you call it a good team.
Mm,
My
that's true.
clients take their good team, turn it
Mm-hmm.
into a great team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also looking for something, if we can replace the word values in values driven team, because that's what I was trying to do at the beginning, is like profit driven team versus value driven team. But you said, well, actually, both of them are kind of values driven, just different values. But if you
Mm-hmm.
had values driven team as the pleasure island, then what's the pain island? What could it be? What could it be as blank driven team?
Mm-hmm.
Is it individual driven team? Is it task driven team? Is it job driven team? Is it
I mean, task driven feels sufficiently painful
okay?
because
So we
it's,
go
yeah,
from a
because it's
task driven
kind of,
to a values driven team. Does that
right.
work?
It could, I would, let me think on that a little bit. Task driven team feels good. Values driven feels like a way to get the pleasure island. So I actually am thinking about what would I call the team if values driven is part of the process
Yeah.
of getting there.
A values driven team is a happy team. A values driven team is a productive team. A values driven team is a team that doesn't want to quit. And so you get your employees staying longer. A values driven team,
It's an
uh,
energy producing team
there you go.
because they recharge themselves,
Yeah.
just by being.
So
Yeah.
if you're going to use values driven team as the result that people are buying and getting from working with you, then I would come up with a name called blank driven team for the pre-faith work, for the pre-hiring you, blank driven team. And I think
Mm-hmm.
task driven team is, uh, it's not going to insult anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly this is an evolution. Like, how do we go from a task-driven team to a values-driven team? And why should we? Because a task-driven team, the owner is involved in every decision. Because in a task-driven team, their energy is drained and everyone's tired at the end of the day. Because in a task-driven team, people are making decisions based on their own values and not on team values. In a values-driven team, energy is created. People feel energized at the end of the day. In a values-driven team, the owner focuses on her zone of genius while her team is interdependent. In a values-driven team, and so then you can kind of show them the
contrast.
The 6 steps to go from a task-driven team to a values-driven team. And there you have it.
Yeah, that feels good. And I think it parallels the journey that the school system is making, because we're all shifting from, or the school system is shifting from, academics only to this more holistic. What we've noticed, academics is like task-driven. Kids get A's or B's or whatever. Yeah. Whereas values-driven for the school system, since some of my clients are also schools, is about human development and being effective in the world. And I think that's what I'm saying about the team. If the team can be effective deeply, then of course the tasks will get done, but it's
Yes. So as an expert with deep experience and knowledge in this space, you've been around the block, you've seen how things have evolved, you know where things are now, and you have a pretty good idea where things are going. And that's why people come to you for your expertise and wisdom. And so you talk about it like there's an old world and we're in the middle of a transition into the new world. And you can tell us what this new world is now and what we should be expecting. And smart, innovative, cutting edge organizations are leading the way of the new world, which is why they hire you. So these are the macro trends that you explain to people. Old world, new world.
Right. And I think especially because so many of my clients anyway have personal experiences that cause them to realize old world isn't working. So they're committed to being part of the front runners of shifting models because it didn't serve them. They are creating space first for themselves and for people like them, and then opening up to create space for other people.
Great. Okay, I'd love to shift gears into how you've been growing your business with public speaking and the results that you've gotten as a result of working with me in the expert speaker method. Do you feel complete in the workshopping of your message before we shift gears?
Yes, this has been good. I want to dig into it myself some more to flesh it out. But yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so we worked a few years back. You had just launched a new book and you wanted to clarify your message and your story. So tell me, why did you want to invest in public speaking, coaching, and messaging? And what were some of the results that you got from that investment?
So for me at the time, I launched a new book, served some clients, and realized a shift that I needed to make in the kind of client I was serving. So when I started working with you, I was shifting the message that was in the book to serve this client that had realized I served best, which was an entrepreneurial special needs mom. And the results that I got, first of all, was a clarity on who this person was. And I remember in crafting that speech, I realized I was part of a mission. I was part of a movement. Like I had in my mind first, I was serving clients, but the speech gave a banner cry to be part of a movement that I hadn't explicitly acknowledged that I was inviting people into. So that was like a number one thing for me. And it became part of my messaging moving forward. I've used the speech, aspects of the speech, and the structure that you helped us understand in crafting the speech to craft mini versions of new speeches. So whether it's for a podcast interview, if I'm workshopping something, this whole being clear on pain and being clear on pleasure and having steps and annotating it in the ways that we did works for short and for long. So I've used that in multiple places. And whenever I talk, either I could be talking because somebody invited me to talk and they're paying me. I could be talking because I'm doing a podcast interview or something. And I could be talking because I'm with an actual client. Like I am there for half a day to do this work. Either way, it's turned out to be money. So I get referrals from speeches and podcast interviews. People call me and ask me for more content or invite me to speak in their event. So it has this kind of ripple effect. And one example was a talk I gave recently, which I forgot. I need to be more organized. I completely forgot that I was invited to do this talk. And I
Yeah.
woke up, I woke up like, oh, what a wonderful day. I have nothing to do. And it's like, wait. And so grabbed my notes, pulled together the talk, and then somebody reached out as I finished. And I was like, we need to work with you. This is the problem that we're having. We'd love to work with you. And from that experience, it was easy. That was like a one-pay client, not the payment plan client, but a single shot. And then when we finished working together, then they're working with me ongoing. And we'll see how often they renew, but they've renewed for 6 months. And then, so I've had those experiences where talk or podcast becomes a client, which becomes an ongoing client, or a talk becomes an invitation to talk somewhere else, and I'm invited to, and I charge them, not a free talk, and that kind of thing.
Good. So you've gotten paid to speak, you've gotten clients from speaking, you're getting more invitations to speak. So moving forward, what role does speaking have in your business and how you're marketing yourself?
I love to be interviewed and I love dialogue with people. So what I've been noticing that if I structure talks and get clear on the questions and invite people to ask me these questions, it's a great way for me to produce content, which I then repurpose. So on the surface, I'm in bunches of interviews with people where we just talk through some of the talking points using questions. And then I'm chopping that up and having clips or using it to create articles or whatever. So that's fundamental. But then teaching is my background. So I use the structure to help me anchor presentations when clients ask me to come and do things and workshop things. So speaking is just a part of how I deliver content and then how I facilitate transformation with people.
Beautiful.
I don't think I'll be like 45 minutes solo speaking. That's not that's not my I can do that. I don't enjoy that as much, but I could be 45 minutes in an interview, which I love.
Good. Well, I know you have a podcast and you're on my podcast, and I'll be seeing you on the digital speaking circuit on the internet. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and the work that you're doing in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Faith Clarke, the creator of the values-driven team method. You heard it here. She helps smart, innovating education companies transition from having task-driven teams to values-driven teams so that their founders and owners can feel less pressure to make every decision. Helps their teams go from depending on the founder for every single decision to being interdependent and making the right decision using her proprietary right decision model.
So they don't feel dragged in all the directions at the same time, that they can actually be in their genius, like you said. Yep.
Well, congratulations on all your success. Keep doing your good work. And thank you for being here on the Expert Speaker Podcast.
Thank you, Majeed. And thank you for that workshopping. Really appreciate it.
Good. Faith, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about the values-driven team and your work?
The Peak Performing Team, peakperformingteam.com is a good place because that gets them on my email list and access to a summary of how I work with teams. And faithclarke.com, my website, will also help them get in touch with me. And unfortunately, Majeed, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, I spend too much time in social media. So if people on Instagram or Facebook, if they look for my name, they'll find me.
All right. Faith Clarke, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Expert Speaker Podcast. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating so that more people can discover the Expert Speaker Podcast and so more people can be empowered to share their message. Be sure to go to www.expertspeaker.com and take the masterclass to learn how to grow your business and make money speaking. It's totally free and will change your business. If you're ready to work with Expert Speaker, you can apply. Just go to expertspeaker.com/apply and someone from our team will be in touch with you to help you grow your business with public speaking. That's expertspeaker.com/apply. We'll see you in the next episode.